Hey everybody, thanks for stopping in. Tyler, hard at work over there. So there's a few new saws here. Most of this you've seen in the last video, but the ones you haven't seen, we have a 261 that will run but will die. We have an MS460 that doesn't run right. We have a 660 that doesn't run right. And we have a Husky 257 that doesn't run right. Those three belong to the Gate Climber. You've seen them before. Oh, there's an 038. That just came in too. That one won't start. Two-man Hornet, a Dolmar that won't start, and a couple 261s that won't start. Hey there. Welcome back to my workbench. My name is Erica, and I am so happy that you're here today. Right now, we have a Stihl MS460 on the bench. The customer who dropped this off said that it runs poorly and that he has seen fuel leaking out of it. He said some weeks it runs good, and then other times it doesn't run well at all. He does all his own service and maintenance, so it's not here for cleaning or service. It's here simply to address the running issue. So that's what we're going to do. So this is a 76cc chainsaw. Prior to the 460, you had the Stihl 046. And then you had the 460, and then the 461, and now the current model is called an MS462, which run roughly $1,500 here in Canada. So we're looking at a saw that would cost about $1,500 to replace with a new one. They made the 460s between 2001 and 2011. So before we get into this, I just had 12 chainsaws come in, and I have to show you them. So I'll meet you over there. So I ordered some chainsaws in for a local tree service. He just came to pick them up, and I said, "Where's all your old saws? What do you do with them?" And he said, "Oh, they're worn out. Some of them don't run. They're for parts or disposal." So I made a deal with them. They're all here now. Are you ready to see this? Okay, what do we have here? A 290, a 362, a 441, a 460, a 460, and this is a 461 and a 461. $200, $200, $200 top handles, and a couple $192 top handles. I guess I have some content here to make you guys some videos about some old tree service saws that were saved from the garbage. Oh, what else we got here? I got a few bins of parts with this stuff. Replace pull cord. I think that needs more than a pull cord. That looks like a bin of carburetors. Well, I guess we could go through this. If you guys have an interest, I could unload all this on my workbench and we could look through it. Let me know. Got all of this and all of these. Well, here we are with a big old Stihl MS460. This saw has a full wrap handle. These are quite common out west where the big wood is. Not so common down here, but we do see them from time to time. That there is like a little wood chip deflector. Keep the wood out of your boots. This saw looks to be in pretty good condition. There's the odd little mark on it. There's a tiny little crack in the plastic there. But this is a commercially ran saw, ran by a crew of guys. But I think they do a pretty good job of taking care of them, cleaning them, maintaining them. We are going to find out. So he says that the saw runs poorly and sometimes there's fuel. They're finding fuel leaking out of it. I think the muffler, he mentioned maybe it's overfueling, flooding, dumping fuel. So let's go through our process here. This thing is not here for service. It's not here for cleaning. It's just here to address the running issue. Got a clean cup. I don't know what brand of cup, but a clean cup. Let's dump the fuel out of this. This is a little bit different. This saw can't lay on its side because of that handle over there. So it's a little bit more awkward to work with. But I'm sure we will figure it out. And it is right full of fuel. And you can see how much fuel that saw holds. I see a tiny little bit of dirt in the bottom, but the color looks normal. I think they run Stihl premium two-stroke mix. I'm looking for my flashlight, and guess what? Somebody has ran off with it. Take one guess of where I found that. Yeah, I don't see any water. Just set that out of the way for now. I want to put some pressure to that fuel line. We'll be testing the line for leaks and the carburetor for leaks. And it looks like that's holding there no problem. Well, it's nice and clean in there. The fuel line and the carburetor test good. The fuel filter looks newer. Actually, he said he has recently replaced that fuel filter. So I'll go ahead and put his fuel mix back in it. A little bit of stuff stayed in the cup. Well, I say we take this thing outside and fire it up. It's pretty cold out there. Find my gloves and my earmuffs, and I'll meet you out there. Well, that thing did not want to start, and there was fuel bubbling out the decompression valve. Let's peel the layers back. This air filter has a pre-filter on it, but that air filter is quite dirty. Let's pull that plug out. That spark plug wasn't very tight in there. So that is a new spark plug, and it was not put in tight. The gasket is not crushed. Let's just check and make sure that it's gapped properly. Yeah, the gap looks good. Let me grab my camera and we'll take a look down the hole. Well, not good news for this MS460. You can see the scoring down in there. So this thing either has a fuel system issue or an air leak or both. I just went and ran the serial number of this unit, and this thing was sold brand new on February the 17th of 2010. So its birthday, its 15-year birthday was coming up next month. So 15 years of commercial service. Not too bad. So what went wrong here? I want to find out. Let's do a compression test. Just making sure that my decompression valve is in the out position. Okay, what do we have? That's not good. Looks like about 80 pounds of compression. Let's pull the muffler off this thing. See, the muffler is wet. There's a couple T27s back in there. Hard to see them, but they are in there. So a saw this size needs more than 80 pounds of compression to run. So the rings are stuck. Let's pull the carburetor off this. We are going to pressure vac test this thing and see if it has any leaks. There's a couple 8mm nuts there to take off. The sun is coming in the window here beside me. This time of year it comes in there and it kind of puts a shadow on everything. Hopefully you can see that okay. Dirt. And take this thing over for a quick blow off. Be right back. Let's pull the carb off this. Got to pop the throttle control linkage out of the handle right there. Fuel line and the impulse line is back in there. Carburetor off. Green fuel line with 2 little O-rings on it. This saw doesn't have any stickers identifying it here, and that's because that is a replacement tank. We're going to pressure vac test this thing. Intake block. Tyler, what's the part number for this? I need part numbers for all of these tools. Don't forget to dump your gas out. I had to remove that screw and put it in a different hole. It wasn't lining up with the impulse properly. This is a bit of a universal tool. There, lines up with it now. That intake block that I just installed, Stihl calls it a flange. There's the part number, 5910 850 4207. Okay, exhaust port is plugged. Carb and impulse are plugged. Got to get that decompression valve out of there. Top cover has to come off. T27s, 1, 2, 3. Decompression valve is out. Decomp hole is plugged. Put our spark plug back in. Okay, we're all sealed up. Let's test this thing. There is my pressure vac tester. I bought this from Stihl. I know you guys keep asking me for the part number, so let me get it here. 4 zeros, 850, 1300. I don't know what your dealer will charge you for them, but that's what I use. So first thing I do is I put it over to vacuum, and I put my thumb over the end, and I just make sure that my tool is working, which it is. I'm going to hook up to the port, and I always pull vacuum first. You want to go to half a bar, which I can't build to half a bar because we have a vacuum leak. Let's go over to pressure. Same thing, we would try to build to half a bar. And we cannot. I can hear it. Let's find it. All right, I've got Tyler running the pressure pump. You'll see his hairy hands there working the pump. And I am going to look for the leak. So first thing we're going to do, Tyler, is make sure that it's not one of my connections leaking. Okay. Keep pumping. Looking at the connection at the impulse, and it is not leaking there. It's not the spark plug. It's not the decompression valve. It's not my exhaust port. All right, well, pump some more. Faster, faster. We have an intake boot and an impulse line down in here. Keep pumping. Pump. Faster. Let me flip this thing around. Here, you go down there. So in the last few videos, we have found impulse hose leaks. Most of you guys have probably seen that. So I'm looking closely at the impulse line, but I'm not seeing a leak. We've also got the intake boot in there. I've showed you guys that a few times, and I don't see a leak there either. I think we're going to have to dig a bit deeper. Okay, you pump in there, Tyler?
Pumping.
After a bunch of pumping, what the heck is going on here? That is not my exhaust block leaking. It's leaking around the cylinder bolt, so maybe the gasket's blown out there. I hope you can see that. Let me zoom in. There we go. There, they got a good view of it now. Well, that's probably what took this saw out. I'm just going to check that that cylinder bolt is tight. It is. It's not loose. I'm going to unhook my tool from this, and we're going to go clean this saw up so that we can get a better look in here. I'm getting this thing just a little clean up so that we could see and hear better. I've got Tyler's help here with this one. So we removed that cylinder bolt from this corner because we want to be able to see better. And I want to show you where that leak is coming from once the bubble's clear. The bubbling is coming out of that. See where he's pointing that line in the casting? The leak is coming from the casting of that cylinder. This thing could have been leaking its whole life. A casting defect on a 15-year-old chainsaw. This is a new one for me. Tyler, have you seen this before?
Never. The base gasket looks like it's leaking, but it's just because we took that bolt out.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah, we can see it.
It starts here. It goes right around the cylinder. We're going to have to take that cylinder off. This is interesting.
I'm going to pull the cylinder off the saw. I'm going to get some of my tools off of it, and then we will get to it. I wonder if the cylinder leaking and the fuel tank on this being replaced, I wonder if those two things are connected at all. Did this saw take a hard hit or a fall? There's a special tool. Scott at the Greasy Shop Rag was asking me about homemade tools. There's one right there. Okay, so cylinder bolts. There's 4 of them, but we've already removed the one. So let's get the other 3 out of there. Just like that. Cylinder bolts are loose. My intake boot, you want to push that in there with a blunt object. You don't want to wreck it. My spark plug gapping tool is pretty blunt. It might serve a second purpose. Just like that. Easy. So with the cylinder off, here's where we were looking in through the exhaust port. And we were seeing a leak down in this area. That leak was coming just out of there. Those are just casting marks, but that line right there is where the leak was coming from. The gasket's not blown out. Has anybody ever seen this before? I've cleaned this thing up a little bit more so I could examine it closer. And I hope you can see this. There is a crack where my finger is right there. Actually, it's probably better without the flashlight. It starts at the L, the H, the L, and runs up. That's a hairline crack. Now let's look inside the cylinder. So where I'm running my light right there is a hairline crack as well. There. That's the best view I can probably give you. See that crack? The cylinder is garbage. Wow. So this saw has a replaced fuel tank on it. Maybe it got dropped, ran over, hit with something, and this damage was unnoticed, but they put a new fuel tank on it. I guess it's possible. Well, here we are with a Stihl MS460 spread across the table. We've got the cylinder off for inspection. When the customer dropped this saw off, I was out front that day, and he said sometimes it runs really good, but then sometimes it runs really poor. And he thinks it was overfueling, flooding. So I kind of thought to myself, we probably have a simple carb refresh, carb rebuild on our hands. That's what I thought going into this. But when we put pressure to that fuel line and carburetor, it didn't leak. And I was expecting it to. So at that point, I became a little unsure of where this was going to go. And here we are. So a replacement tank is a sign that something has happened. And I'm going to try to find out what happened to this thing. I don't know if this is a casting defect. I can't imagine this saw ran for 15 years with a casting defect. I have a feeling that it's to do with why the tank on this saw had to be replaced. Fell out of a tree, ran over, something landed on it, fell out of a truck, who knows? The saw belongs to a commercial customer. Whether he'll want to fix this or buy a new 462, I don't know, but I will find out tomorrow. So this saw will either leave with him for parts or get rebuilt for him, or he'll trade it in and we will rebuild this together. I will let you know as soon as I know. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm off to make a coffee, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.